y'all, so this mac and cheese recipe is hitting the blog tomorrow. You guys have been asking for it. So I want to go through and do a little bit of walkthrough with some tips that will help you make the best mac and cheese ever. Let's start with our cheese. So it's important to have a good mix of cheeses. You want something that is sharp, something that is creamy, something that is a little bit nutty, because it gives dimension to your mac and cheese. Now, you don't have to do this. Obviously, everybody doesn't. But if you've had my mac and cheese before, this is one of the reasons why it's so good. So for my blend, I have 4 ounces or a quarter pound of Fontina that I've measured out. I have a quarter pound or 4 ounces of Gruyere, which is going to give us that nuttiness. I have extra sharp cheddar cheese, and this is 8 ounces. And then I have 8 ounces or half pound of mild cheddar. So that's my blend. You can use all white cheeses also if you want to, and it'll give you a white mac, but because this is orange, it's going to change everything into a yellowy orange color. And then I weigh it out to make sure that I have 24 ounces or 1 pound, 8 ounces, 1.5 pounds. Thing that I skipped right over before even the blend and everything is making sure that you are shredding your cheeses themselves. What a lot of people don't realize is that pre-shredded cheeses, in order to keep them from clumping, are coated with a substance that makes your Mornay or your cheese sauce that you make oily. So if you shred it yourself, you avoid all of that. You get a better melt, you get a smoother texture. It's not oily, it doesn't separate, and it tastes good. It tastes really good. So make sure you're buying your cheeses and that you're shredding it yourself. And I'm going to show you some tips for that. But one thing is, you can go to the grocery store, and if you go to the cheese counter, you can get exactly the measurements of each cheese that you want without having to buy a full wedge. I was at Trader Joe's, so they don't have a cheese counter, but most grocery stores like Wegmans, Harris Teeter, Giant, even BJ's and Sam's, Costco, they have cheese counters that you can use. When it comes to shredding your cheeses, you have some options. One of them is going to make you mad, and that is using a shredder. You can use a box shredder like this. You can use a kind of flat plain shredder that's fitted over a bowl. You can do that, and I used to until I realized the cheat code was to use my food processor without the blade in it and with the shredder attachment on top, and that's what I'm going to do now. Literally going to shred all these cheeses in about 2 minutes. Forgot to show you guys, but this is my shredded cheese, all perfectly shredded. As you can see, there are pieces that clump together because it doesn't have a coating agent on it, and that's okay, because we're going to blend it into our Mornay very slowly, and it's going to melt down and be delicious. But this is what builds up a sauce. I had a couple people already DMing me asking me about 6 and 7 and 8 cheese blends. You can do that if you want to. I like to have it always equal 24 ounces or 3 cups of cheese. I don't think you need that many. I think you just need the basic flavors. Something sharp, something pretty neutral, something a little bit nutty, and then something creamy to really smooth out your sauce. And then if you want to add more cheeses, you can do that in other ways, which I'm going to show you as I'm building the mac and cheese. But yeah, so 4 cheeses, in my opinion, is more than enough. Okay, y'all, let's talk noodles, because everything about mac and cheese, if you choose it properly, it will make it better. So what I like to do is choose a noodle that has little ridges on it. You see that? These little ridges on this macaroni? This is from Trader Joe's. I use 1 pound, so this is perfect, and this is 99 cents. It's hard to find noodles with grip on them, I found in the grocery store, but these automatically do. They grip the sauce, and so it gets in between, it stays on, it doesn't slide off, so you never have a dry noodle. So that is number 1. Number 2 is to make sure you're boiling them in salted water, and I like to stop 1 to 2 minutes before the package says that it's ready. I believe this says do it for 9 minutes, so I usually do it for 7, and that ensures that the end result, your noodles aren't overcooked. We're about to move into making our cheese sauce. So the good thing that you want to do here is have your ingredients prepared. Right now I have the base, which is my butter and my flour. I like to use 6 tablespoons of butter or 3 ounces of butter, to 2 ounces of flour. I find that just slightly under by like an ounce for the butter and flour for mac and cheese gives me the perfect consistency. It's not too thick. It does well, and that's about, because I do the spoon method, so that's about a half of a cup to, you know, 3/4 of a no, that's wrong, 2/3 of a cup of butter. So for my milk, which will be used to build my mornay, my bechamel that will then turn into the mornay, I like to warm it up so that it's the same temperature as the roux when I add it in. It just makes for a smoother sauce and helps to blend a little bit better so you don't get clumps, which if you do, I can show you how to navigate through that, but in this case we won't. Okay, one last thing about the milk. We just want to bring it up to a warm temperature. We don't want it to boil or anything because that will scorch it. So we're just bringing it up so that it's warm, like kind of steamed milk. So that's all we're doing here. Yeah. Okay, so to these noodles, once you take them out at 7 minutes, or 2 minutes under the cook time, you want to put them in a strainer and rinse them with cold water to stop the cooking. What we're trying to do here is absolutely avoid overcooked mushy noodles, because as the noodles are in the sauce in the oven, they're kind of going to be boiling in that cheese sauce, so they'll continue to cook the rest of the way through, and that will make sure that you're not getting like mush from mac and cheese, because that's the worst. You want a little bit of a bite from the noodle. All right, guys, so this process is going to move pretty quickly, so I'm not going to be able to talk through everything that I'm adding, and it's going to be in the recipe, so I'm just going to show you some Worcestershire, some smoked paprika, black pepper, a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder. I like a little bit of cayenne, and usually I use dry mustard, but I don't have any. I can't believe it, so I'm going to use a little bit of Dijon, and all this is doing is adding a bite and another layer of flavor. Any good mac and cheese that you had, I guarantee you that it had either Dijon or dry mustard. So now we are making a roux. So I've melted this butter, and I am going to add in my flour directly to here, and then I'm going to stir this around. And essentially, I'm just trying to get the flour raw flavor cooked out. You just don't want floury tasting mac and cheese, but you don't want this to brown. So this is also how you make like gravy and sauces and things. So you don't want this to get too brown. You really just want to cook out the flour taste. And so I'm going to do this for like a minute or so. And it's not on high heat. It's on medium-low heat. So I'm going to need both of my hands for this next step, but basically what I'm going to be doing is adding in the milk. I'm going to add about a cup in first and get it all mixed in, try to get out all the lumps and bumps. Usually I would use a whisk, but I had to throw my whisk away and my new one hasn't arrived yet. And then I'm going to add in the rest, continuously stirring. I would show you guys, but I can't because I'm not a superhero and I only have 2 hands and I haven't uncovered my telekinetic power to move things with my mind. So it's important to stir this around because you want to make sure that you don't have any lumps or bumps in there. That's why I keep stirring and lifting to make sure I'm not getting any. When you have a whisk, it's a bit easier than with a spoon, so I do suggest you have a whisk. I see some lumps in here, so I'm going to be getting those out. Also stirring so that it doesn't stick to and scorch on the bottom, because once you get scorches, that's your mac and cheese, folks, because the whole thing will taste burned. So just be careful and be patient. Don't turn the heat up too high and keep it moving. Literally, keep it moving. So as this is going, what I'm going for is achieving this being able to coat the back of a spoon. Right now, it just kind of rolls off. When it can coat the back of a spoon, I can go ahead and add in my spices and then my cheeses. And so if at this step you do have a lot of lumps, I've gotten mine out with the spoon. I'm a trained professional here. But if you do have a lot of lumps, what you want to do is you have a couple options. Part of troubleshooting is if you have a stick blender, that's the perfect time to use it, is here before you add any cheeses or anything, to smooth that out. And that'll get all your lumps out. If you don't and you have a blender, especially a high-power blender, you can also add this liquid in there. Blend it out for about 30 seconds and add it to the pan, and then keep going from where you were. I am going to stir this around for just another minute, but I wanted to show you guys that is coating the back of a spoon. I want it to get a little bit thicker than that on the spoon, and then I'll go ahead and season this and then add my cheeses. So at this point, I've seasoned with everything except for salt. Cheese adds a lot of saltiness to mac and cheese, so I like to add the salt after to see what I need. And sometimes, depending on who makes the cheese that you bought and which blend of cheeses you use, the salt level can change. So I like to do that according to taste. So the cheeses are all mixed up so that you get a good blend of everything. I'm going to add a little bit more than half, probably about like 3/4 of the cheese to the pot, and I'm going to reserve the rest for a middle layer. Yes, look at this coming together. So I'm going to mix this around and let this get melty and delicious and all that. And then I'm going to taste and adjust for salt and any other seasoning I want to add more or less of. But already, look at that. Yeah. Okay, y'all, mixing in these noodles. And I should mention, I added a little bit of extra milk in this because this is going to sit overnight because I can't bake it into the morning because I need to take pictures for the recipe. So, sorry guys, you won't see the finished result, but I'll finish this out in the morning. But y'all hear that sound and you already know what it is. Yeah, this is bomb. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my mac and cheese into this buttered dish. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to add almost half. Then I'm going to put the remaining cheese that I have in there, and then I'm going to add the rest. And at this point, if you want to add other cheeses, and something I like to do and I'm going to do tonight, is I'm going to add some mozzarella with those, because that's going to give us those stringy pulls that everybody likes to show on Instagram and everything else. So I'm going to use that. If you want to do that, make sure you use whole milk mozzarella that's not super wet, because that's not going to contaminate your dish and all that you work for with texture, and it'll give you those nice stringy pulls. Now you can see that this layer of cheese is in here, and that sits right in the middle. Keeps it extra creamy, makes it delicious. With the mozzarella mixed in there, you'll get those lovely string pulls. So yeah, you definitely want to reserve so that you can do this too. Now I'm just going to add the rest on top. And because I'm making this in advance, and if you do this for Thanksgiving, you will do that too, I'm going to cover it and put it in the fridge. Kind of let it come to temperature, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge. Then I'll bake it in the morning. That's why I added extra liquid, because the noodles will kind of absorb a little bit, and you want to make sure that you have enough for it to bake. For tonight, this is where we stop. I'm going to let this cool down some, and then I'm going to cover it and put it in the fridge. In the morning, I'm going to bake it when I have sunlight to take pictures, and I'll check back in with you guys to let you see how I do the topping and what it looks like when it's baked and all that. But thank you so far for watching. Now, if y'all thought I wasn't going to make myself a mini one, you're sadly mistaken. So this one just came out the oven, it's bubbling. Here's a tip: let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes so that everything can come back together. But yeah, I stuffed way more cheese in this little ramekin than I needed to, but you know what, it was worth it to get that. Yes. This one is a little bit more creamy inside, like wet inside, I guess, creamy, whatever, because there's extra liquid to be baked tomorrow. So the noodles that are in the refrigerator are going to absorb some of that, so it'll come out kind of like the picture that I posted earlier. Good morning, good morning. So I'm up, I'm ready to bake my mac and cheese. I have it on this tray in case it kind of overflows, because it is right up on the edge of this. But I'm making the topping that I like. I like a little bit of crunchy topping. So I'm going to do that. And basically what I have here is melted butter. And then I like to use even parts of breadcrumbs and Parmesan grated cheese. This texture of grated cheese. And I mix that up with the butter. Add a little bit of salt and pepper. A little bit of herbs. And then I sprinkle that on top. For me, my goal isn't to completely cover it in a crispy, crunchy blanket. It's really just to add some texture throughout it. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, y'all. So my topping's on top. As you can see, noodles are still peeking through. You can also top with cheese. Or you can top with cheese and then top with breadcrumbs. I think there's enough cheese in it and through the middle that I just put this on top. Now I'm going to bake it. Normally I bake it for about 30-35 minutes. It's been in the fridge, so it may take a little bit longer to get it bubbling, and basically you're going for a brown on top. And I like to have those little black spots, brown spots throughout to show that the cheese has really, really been like browned and gone through some changes. All right, people, the mac and cheese is out. As you can see, it's bubbling in places. It's bubbled over in other places. I'm so excited to let this cool down a little bit, get some pictures of it. It's currently hot lava in the middle. So we're gonna let this go, and then I'm actually gonna take it to work, because if I keep it here and I eat it, I'm gonna eat it all. So yeah.